Okay, thanks for joining us for the DCCA webinar with Katie Kouba, the Senior Political Director with the NCGOP, and Katie will tell us all about the convention must-dos. Katie, take it away.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate it. Something that I've tried very hard to do during my tenure here is try and get as many questions answered up front as I possibly can. I know that credentials can be a pretty daunting task. I also know that we're going to have a lot of leadership changes. So one thing that I definitely ask is that you take the knowledge that you're getting as the current county chair, and if you are not the county chair after your convention, if you could still help your incoming leadership through this process. You know, it's not a hard process, but it's very detail oriented, and we definitely, you know, it's best to get it right the first time. So first off, our convention this year is going to be June 2nd and June 3rd. It's going to be in Wilmington at the Wilmington Convention Center, and our host hotel is the Wilmington Hilton Riverside. There is we do have a special hotel rate, I believe, and don't quote me on this, I think it's about $169 per night. We'll be putting all of the hotel information and how to book the hotels and everything that you'll need to get registered on our website, which we are finalizing, and we're hoping to have up either the end of this week or early next week. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody there. It is a chair, we're expecting a big crowd, and we're very excited about the convention that's coming up year. Oh, there we go. All right. So first off, you know, we're just going to kind of go through the materials. These were hard copy mailed to all Kyle. They were also emailed to all of your county chairs and county vice chairs. So if you have any questions, you can always look back to this. And of course, this will be recorded, so you can look at it on there. This was just kind of a note, just kind of an intro to the packet. We tried to make it, put it into a bit of an easier format to understand this year. Very important, if you could, as soon as you possibly can, if you have not already, give us your county convention date, time, and location. So I need the date, time, location, cost, if any, and speakers. What we're going to do is put those on our state convention website. We're also going to mail that to all the members or email it to the members of the General Assembly so that they know when your county conventions are. And we're also sending it in personalized letters to our members of Congress so that they're aware of how to become a delegate if they'd like to. So first off is going to be our county convention date. Your precinct meetings, some folks do choose to have those separately and prior to the county convention, and those are going to be in February of 2017. If you want, which I think probably 80% of our counties do, they hold their precinct meetings immediately prior to their county convention, and that can be done in the month of March. Our district conventions are going to be in the month of April this year, and because of all of the court, we of course had some redistricting this year because of a court decision. So we're going to be we're working with the district chairs to get the district convention set up, and we're going to be mailing a letter to every member of the NCGOP Executive Committee along with your official call to convention. And in that letter, we're going to list all of the district convention time, dates, and locations so that you know exactly where your new convention or your new district will be. If you haven't done so already, I highly encourage you to go to the State Board of Elections website and just double check your voter registration. But you'll be in, presuming you didn't move, you'll be in the congressional district that you voted on in November. And of course, our state convention is 2nd to 3rd in Wilmington. All right, this has not changed at all over the past years or the past few years anyhow, but your requirements to be a delegate or an alternate delegate at the state convention is that you need to be registered as of January 31st, 2017. You need to be registered in a registered Republican in that county that you're hoping to represent at the state convention. You should have, as I mentioned, already received this packet if you are a chair or vice chair. I've also sent out our county and district allocation numbers for the number of delegates and alternate delegates you've got to the state convention. I included on this slide, this is the text from the NCGOP plan of organization. And I actually went ahead and calculated how many delegates each county has, from the county to the state level, and from the county to each one of those congressional districts. So if you have any questions about that, or if you have not received that and you want that information, please send me an email. It's Katie, Katie, .Kouba, K-O-U-B as in boy A, at ncgop.org, and I'll be happy to share with you that spreadsheet. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, your precinct meeting can either be in the month of February or in the month of March. You should be providing written your precinct chairman, and you should be providing notice in a newspaper of general circulation. Whenever you're doing this, please make sure that you are, if you're sending it in to us, make sure that you have proof of date of publication. That is probably one of the biggest things that we have issues tracking down when we're doing the credentials process. While we have calculated the delegates to the state and district conventions from the counties, we don't really go down as far to calculate from the precinct meetings to your county convention. So I've included your formula here. We recommend that you get the number of registered Republicans by precinct in your county from your county board of elections. They should be able to just provide you with those numbers. If you have any trouble, please let us know, and I'm happy to reach out to my contact at the state board. But basically, each precinct gets one automatic delegate and one automatic alternate delegate to your county convention. Then they get an additional one for every 100 registered Republicans in that precinct or major fraction. So as a really simple example, if you have a precinct that, say precinct A1 has 200 registered Republicans in it, they would of course get their automatic delegate, and then they get 2 additional for the registered Republicans. So they have a total of 3 delegates and 3 alternate delegates to the county convention. Again, if you have any trouble getting the numbers from your county board, let me know, and I'm more than happy to try and assist you there. All right, so your county convention. This is going to be, the county chairman is who sets the date, time, and location of your convention. Your county convention must be held in the month of March. That is per the plan of organization. Any conventions that are not held within the month of March, if they are challenged and it's brought to the state level, then the arbitration committee could rule that your convention was out of order and you would have to redo your convention. Again, your county convention, you need to publish your notice in a newspaper of general circulation. Please don't procrastinate this. It is better to get your notice in earlier rather than later. If you're having any trouble with it, please go ahead and let us know so that I can alert the credentials committee and they can kind of work with you on that. But again, this is something that we have issues with every year. Please go ahead and get your newspaper ads in for your dates. So as some of you might have noticed, I've been kind of breaking this up and doing what I've been calling convention spotlights. The next convention spotlight is actually going to be on this next topic that I'm going to touch on, but each county should have a credentials committee. Your credentials committee should be at least 3 people, and that's going to be the committee that's going to go ahead and certify and make sure that all of the delegates from the precinct to the county are eligible to be a delegate, so that they are registered as of January 31st of this year and that they are a registered Republican in your county. And there's a couple of different ways that can work. Precinct meetings are being held in February and your convention's in March, and the credentials committee has to issue their report at least 3 days prior to your county convention. Any delegates that are being challenged, so if, for example, I was going to Wake County and I didn't register to be or I'm a registered unaffiliated voter, then I would need to be notified prior to 3 days prior to the convention that my registration was being challenged, and that would give me an opportunity to hopefully fix the situation if there was an error. If your precinct meetings and your county convention are both being held in March on the same day, then unless a delegate is challenged, they should all be seated. And anybody who is challenged should be able to appeal to your credentials committee, who will have final ruling on whether they're able to be seated as a delegate to your county convention. We also, of course, have a credentials committee at the state level, and there will be the final determination, as far as state convention delegates go. Lee, did you want to, I know you mentioned that you wanted to see if there were questions running through. Did you want to do that now, or did you?
So
Okay.
let me unmute everyone, and if anybody has a question. Okay, does anyone have a question for Katie? Okay, there was a question from Jim Womack. And by the way, if you don't want to speak your question, you can, on the bottom of the screen, put your cursor there and a menu will just pop up. Click on the chat button and you can type in your question. Jim wants to know whether the credentialing committee itself, the members of the credentialing committee, if they can run for GOP office at the county convention. And Katie, 1 second. Hang on, I have to unmute you. 1 second. Okay, Katie, go ahead.
So they are actually not able to run if you are on the credentials committee. I actually got asked that the other day from somebody. And Jim, I'm happy to find that specific language in the plan. I had just found it the other day, and I can't exactly remember where it is. But I will find that language. But according to the plan of organization, you cannot be on the credentials committee and be elected to a position at that convention.
Okay, great. So if there's anyone else who has a question, just hit that chat button on the bottom of the screen. And in another 10 minutes or so, Katie will also pause and ask and see if the telephone callers have any questions. And I'll unmute everybody. Thanks. Okay, Katie, if you could go ahead.
Credentials as officer. All right. So next up, let's talk a little bit about what you should actually be accomplishing at your county conventions. So this year, because we are in an odd year, you should be electing new county officers, which Jim's question kind of alluded to. Per the plan, you need to elect a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and a treasurer. And then you can also elect other officers as your convention sees fit. These are just kind of the minimum of what the state plan requires. You should adopt or amend a written county plan of organization. You do have two options here. If your county has its own plan of organization, that's totally fine. The convention can vote on that. Or your convention can vote to just go along with the state plan of organization. I think it's just a rough guess would be that about 60 to 70% of counties just use the state plan. Either way is totally fine with us. If you do have your own plan of organization, we do require that it is on file at state headquarters. So you'll send that in with your credentials packet, which we'll talk about in a little while. It is also required that your plan cannot be inconsistent with the state plan of organization. So you cannot amend your plan to, for example, say that an unaffiliated voter can serve in a role as in an officer's role. Anything that the state plan specifies you can expand upon, but you cannot be in contradiction of. And then, of course, you will be electing your delegates and alternate delegates to your district and your state conventions. And again, it just kind of mentions that the numbers should be that they've already been sent out. And all of your delegate spots should be filled before you elect alternate delegates. Every year we have a couple of counties that will submit. They won't completely fill out their delegate spots. So say, for example, they have 15 possible spots. They'll send us 12 submitted delegates, and then they'll submit 3 alternate delegates. And the credentials committee does ask that all of your delegate spots are filled. All right. So county convention information. There are a lot of things that we do ask per the plan be sent back to NCGOP headquarters. The plan of organization does ask that the county chairman and county secretary work together to assemble all of these materials. Again, I know there's going to be some turnover. So if you are the outgoing chairman and there is a totally new team, please know that your job's not really done until everything has been submitted to the NCGOP and your applicable district secretary. You have in your package, you have gotten a transmittal sheet. Basically serves as a checklist of everything that needs to come back to me. Packets should be mailed and emailed back to me, and anything that is a spreadsheet needs to come back in an Excel format. It helps us a lot up here. We're able to make a giant list of our delegates. We can combine them. When you send it in PDF, we have to retype it, and it just isn't very convenient or conducive to making sure that we're using our time effectively at headquarters. We've also, we're able to upload it into our system, and it really just helps if you could return it in Excel. It should not be handwritten. If you, don't know how to use Excel, I'm sure there's somebody at your county that could help you. It is very difficult to read a lot of when we get handwritten copies back, and it just increases error. So one other thing is that your credentials need to be returned to me, to NCGOP headquarters, and they can be to my attention within 10 calendar days of your county convention. Anything outside of that window is going to be considered a late submission, and that will be subject to the state credentials committee, and they could, at the end of the day, vote to not seat your delegation because you were not in compliance. So please go ahead and get your materials in as soon as you can. I have counties that send it the next day. That is awesome. We have a lot to do with your credential submissions once they get returned to us. So, please make sure that you're getting those in on time. All right. So again, within 10 days of your county convention, you should be submitting the following materials. And I actually have examples later on in the presentation of each kind of how each form is properly completed. But you should have your transmittal sheet, which was sent out already. If your county has your own plan of organization, please make sure to include that in there. You should have your list of delegates and your list of alternate delegates, again, typed and in an Excel format. And with those, make sure that you're using folks' full name. If somebody's name, for example, I've been using Todd Poole's name because he is actually William Todd Poole. So if you go by Todd and your name is William Todd and you're registered as William Todd, then we need to know that name, because we do go on the State Board of Elections website and double check every single person that the county has submitted to us. And that's a great way for all to make sure that folks are eligible to be seated at your convention. You can go ahead and I will send out the link to check folks in the next county convention spotlight. But it's just on the State Board of Elections website, and you can do a voter lookup, and it'll actually tell you, their address, and you can confirm that it is indeed that person. And that will quite honestly save us a lot of time up here and a lot of detective work up here. We also require that you send us your county officer list and your precinct officer list. These, again, even if you don't have any changes, please still submit that to us. We do need that in your packet. We also are asking folks to submit what we're calling our public contact information. We are doing our best to keep our website as up to date as possible. I know we've had issues with it in the past, but I want to know what information you want to be out there. This is really us trying to help you and make it easily accessible for folks to get to the best person. If the county chairman doesn't want to be the public contact, that's totally fine. It can be whoever wants to be that person. It could be, chairman at Catawba County or whatever county you're in. It's just, it helps us know what the best way to get in touch with your county organization is from a public perspective. This will be the information that we put on our website and that we share with folks as they call in. Again, copy of your newspaper notice, making sure that it does have the proof of the date that it was published. And we also do ask for a $2 processing fee per submitted delegate and alternate delegate. That helps us to defray the cost of mailing invitations and a lot of the administrative work on our end. So you've gone through, you've done all your credentials, you can send your hard copy to P.O. Box 12905, Hillsborough Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27605. You can also email them to me at katie.kouba@ncgop.org. again, within 10 calendar days, not business days, but calendar days. And you should also be sending any required materials to your district secretary. One thing, as a precaution, I would recommend making a copy of everything that you send, just in case, heaven forbid, it gets lost in the mail or anything. We've got a backup, and we're able to get that. So now we're just going to look at some examples of some correctly completed forms. I have made up a lot of this information, but here is a successfully completed transmittal form. Again, I've indicated, I use the NCGOP as our example. I've indicated that we have adopted the state plan of organization. I'm submitting the information both electronically to the katie.kouba@ncgop.org email address, and I'm submitting that information by hard copy. So anything that has a signature, we do want the hard copy of. And then again, the transmittal sheet really serves as a checklist for what we need back at NCGOP. So I've checked that I've gotten all of these information. We've just for fun's sake said that I had submitted 8 delegates, and so that would be $16 because it was $2 per delegate. I've included a photocopy of our county convention sign-in sheet, and we really hadn't talked about that before, but this really helps the credentials committee if, for example, John Smith shows up from Wake County and Mr. Smith says he was at the county convention, but he wasn't submitted to the NCGOP, but he should be a delegate. We can actually go back and we give that to the credentials committee, and they can look and say, oh, he was at the convention, he may have inadvertently been left off. So it helps us. It's just another tool for the credentials committee to solve problems. And then we also talked about our public contact sheet. This should be signed by your county chairman and your county secretary. So I have put Kim Cotton West and Hayes on there as they are our state officers at the moment. Next, we are looking at our sample county officer listing. Again, that blue line up at the top, if you make sure to put your county name in there so we know what county it is. We're listing out the position, and we're putting down what their names and their addresses, phone numbers, and emails so that we can compile those lists, and we can make sure to get the relevant folks' information from headquarters. This information won't be shared unless it is on that public contact sheet. So, this is really for me to be, and my team up here to be able to contact y'all. Next up, we have our sample precinct officer list. We, of course, have a column for precinct so that we know, I kind of just made some stuff up here, but know what precinct it is, their position, and then their contact information. Next, we've got our sample county delegate list. This is very important for your submission, making sure that, again, you're using the legal name as they are registered to vote. So whatever it says on the state board website is what you should put on this sheet. We will need their mailing address, their phone number, their email address, so we can make sure that we're sending them information on registering for the state convention. We also need to know what their address that they're registered at is. And so that if it is the same as their mailing address, you don't need to put anything in that column. But if somebody has a P.O. box, as I've done as an example here, make sure that you are putting what the address on their voter registration is so that we can verify that it isn't the same person. Same thing with the alternate delegates, making sure that we've got their mailing address and their address on their voter registration. This was a great example. This is actually from Beaufort County from last year that I pulled. They pulled out their copy of their newspaper notice. As you can see, the date is very clear up top. This was just they literally took the newspaper day that it was published in, and they saved that paper and they mailed it up to me. If you want to make a photocopy of it like it's done here, that's totally fine as well. And then next, I've got our sample completed public information form. Again, this is, if you don't have a Facebook page, that's okay. Just don't put anything for it. If you don't want us to list an address, that's okay. Whatever you want us to list, please at least have an email address at the minimum. We do have a lot of folks who prefer to get phone numbers. So, this is as much or as little as you want to list. And this is what will go on our website. So that's our example of our full packet. These are just some tips of things. This is probably my 5th time going through credentials. So just some tips that I've kind of seen that'll be helpful. Again, submitting names as they appear on the voter roll. And there's that website. You'll go to the NC State Board website. Up at the top, there's a menu area and there's voter tools. Toggle over that and there should be a place for you to check voter registration. Submitting your packet early. Don't wait till the last minute, including the proof of the date that your newspaper notice was published, sending any spreadsheets in an Excel format. This is something that kind of gets overlooked sometimes, making sure that your officers who have been elected as a delegate or alternate are included on your delegate and alternate list. They are not automatic delegates. Neither are your elected officials. There are no auto delegates. So anybody who should be a delegate from your county should be on your list. And then again, delegate slots should be filled first. So we want to pause here and take questions, and then I just have one more quick thing to go over with everyone, and then we should be done.
Okay, I'm going to unmute everybody. Okay, any questions?
It looks like we had a question from Stephen. Are we required to send both hard copies and emails? If you can, at a minimum, be sending your transmittal sheet in a hard copy. Anything that has a signature, if you have a hard copy, that'd be great. And then we've got Jim asked, which district secretary do we mail the packet to? I would, because your district leader, I would send it to your old district secretary. Because they're still the ones that are helping to help with that transition. If you want to copy me on it, that would be fine as well. And I'm happy to kind of help the districts coordinate with that. I'm also going to be sending each of the old district leaderships the information for the district conventions, and we are working with them on that. But go ahead and send it to your old district, your, I guess, current organizational, but your old congressional district secretaries.
Okay, let me mute everybody again, and please, if you can wait while I unmute you 1 second. Okay.
All right. So one of the last things that I just wanted to address is our actual state convention business, and that's not really part of the credentials, but I thought that it would be good to make sure that you guys are all aware. We definitely, I know that a lot of counties will work on resolutions. You'll also have suggestions for the plan of organization or the state party platform. We're going to email all of this information out, but we do have email addresses set up for each standing committee. So what I would encourage you to do is, if your county convention passes a resolution that you would like to see addressed at the state convention, go ahead and email that in so that the resolutions committee that's been appointed by each of the district chairs and our state chairman can go ahead and look at that information and, go ahead and if they're getting, for example, if we have 20 counties submit the same or very similar resolution, then they can go ahead and combine that and try and address everything that y'all want to on the floor. So if you have any resolutions, that email address is resolutions@ncgop.org. If you have anything that you would like to see the plan of organization committee address, that is plan@ncgop.org. We have our platform, that's platform@ncgop.org. And of course, we have our rules committee, and that is rules@ncgop.org. And we do have, if you have a question specific to the credentials committee, you're welcome. I have a weekly conference call with them once county conventions get kicked off. And then they also have an email address, and it is credentials@ncgop.org. So any suggestions you've got, I've already shared the login information with the committee chairman, and I'm going to remind them of those. And we're also going to send an email to our big email list, so that if folks have suggestions, they can send those directly to them. We'll also be putting a link to submit ideas on our website once that gets launched. And as I said, hopefully that'll all be launched either this week or next week. We're trying to get everything kind of sorted out as much as we can. And but we're looking forward to convention this year. We do, of course, have a chairman's election. So we're expecting a big turnout, and we hope that you also see a lot of folks turning out in your counties and congressional districts and precinct meetings. So Lee, if there's any more questions, I'm happy to take those, or if not, I think I've gone through. And if anybody wants this information that hasn't received it, please email me at katie.kouba@ncgop.org.
Katie, thank you so very much. I also want to encourage all of the county chairs and convention planners to make your convention motivational, make it interesting. There's always some times where there's a little bit of dead time, maybe you're counting votes or taking care of some credentialing things. During that time, if you have AV capabilities, if you're able to show a video, show one of the great videos from, for example, Prager University. They have 5-minute videos that are absolutely fascinating, persuasive, interesting. They talk about how you present ideas about conservatism, the difference between the left and right ideas. They're fantastic. If you look on the DCCA newsletter, any DCCA newsletter, on the right-hand column, if you scroll down, there's a section called Inspirational Videos. Use those, or go to Prager University, go to Bill Whittle's website, just any website where you can get a brief video. It will really jazz up your convention, and it will be memorable, and it will just make it much more professional. So I encourage you guys to do that. And Katie, thanks so much for going over all the paperwork and the must-dos, and we certainly all learned a lot. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining.
Absolutely.
Bye.